flashes colored lights from the coaching box during live matches. He fields 7 forwards on the bench. He borrows tactics from under-14 schoolboy rugby. And right now, coaches across the Northern Hemisphere are begging World Rugby to ban him. But here's what they won't tell you. They can't, and the reason why is about to change how you see rugby forever. I'm back with another one. And today we're exposing the real reason Rassie Erasmus has become the most feared mind in World Rugby. Let's start with what they're accusing him of. Crime number 1 is the disco lights controversy. During the 2023 World Cup, Erasmus installed a system of colored lights in the coaching box. Red means one thing, green means another. Blue signals something else entirely. Opponents were furious. The British media called it unsportsmanlike. Irish coaches questioned whether it violated the spirit of the game. But here's the thing nobody wants to admit. It's completely legal. World Rugby checked the regulations, reviewed the complaints and came back with one answer. There's no rule against it. Crime number 2 is the bomb squad, the 7-1 bench split that has revolutionized rugby. 7 forwards, 1 back. It sounds insane until you realize what it does. Fresh legs in the final 20 minutes. Dominant scrums when the opposition is exhausted. Rolling substitutions that turn the bench into a secret weapon. The entire Northern Hemisphere has called it dangerous, accused South Africa of abusing the bench, and demanded World Rugby change the rules immediately. Scotland's coaches said it goes against rugby tradition. English commentators claimed it undermines fair competition. French analysts argued it creates an unfair advantage. And you know what World Rugby did? They studied the injury data, analyzed the safety concerns, and announced in April 2025 that the 7-1 split will not be banned. Why? Because the science shows it's actually safer than people think. Crime number 3 might be the most brilliant of all. Erasmus admitted he used to leave fake playbooks in opposition locker rooms when he coached the Cheetahs. Line-out calls that were completely wrong. Set-piece signals that led nowhere. The opposition would study them, prepare for them, and then get destroyed when the Springboks ran completely different plays. Is it mind games? Absolutely. Is it illegal? Not even close. And this is where the establishment starts to panic, because Rassie Erasmus has figured out something that terrifies every traditional coach in World Rugby. He's realized that the rules are written to prevent specific things, but if you can think outside those specific prohibitions, you can revolutionize the entire game, and they hate him for it. Let me tell you what's really happening here. The Northern Hemisphere has dominated rugby's administrative corridors for decades. The language of the sport is English. The headquarters are in Dublin. The traditional powers are England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and France. And for years they've set the tone for how rugby should be played. Then comes this coach from South Africa who refuses to accept their version of how things should work. He doesn't care about tradition. He doesn't care about the unwritten rules. He cares about one thing only: winning. And he's doing it by exposing every loophole, every gray area, every opportunity that the rulebook allows. The real reason they want him banned has nothing to do with safety or fairness. It's about control. When Erasmus uses the 7-1 split, he's not just changing his team's strategy, he's forcing every other nation to reconsider their entire approach. When he uses colored lights for communication, he's not just signaling his players, he's showing every coach in the world that there are tools available they never thought to use. When he borrowed tactics from Paul Roos, under 14s, he wasn't being desperate. He was demonstrating that innovation can come from anywhere if you're willing to look. And this is what's killing them, because they can't ban creativity. They can't legislate against thinking differently. They can't write a rule that says coaches aren't allowed to be smarter than everyone else. World Rugby is trapped. Every time they try to close one loophole, Erasmus finds 3 more. Every time they investigate one of his tactics, they discover it's technically legal. Every time critics demand action, World Rugby has to admit there's nothing to act on. The organization released a statement saying the 7-1 split wouldn't be banned because there's no evidence it increases injury risk. But read between the lines of that statement. What they're really saying is we looked for a reason to stop this, and we couldn't find one. That's not a victory for World Rugby. That's an admission of defeat. Now let's talk about why this matters beyond just one coach. Erasmus has changed rugby forever, whether his critics like it or not. France started experimenting with similar bench configurations. New Zealand began studying his substitution patterns. Even England, the most traditional rugby nation on earth, started questioning whether their conventional approach was holding them back. This is the Erasmus effect. He doesn't just win matches, he forces the entire sport to evolve. And evolution is terrifying for people who've built their careers on tradition. British commentators built their reputations analyzing the game a certain way. Irish coaches earned their positions by mastering the traditional system. Scottish administrators climbed the ranks by preserving rugby's heritage. Then Erasmus walks in and says your entire framework is optional. And suddenly their expertise feels less valuable. Their experience feels less relevant. Their authority feels less secure. So they do what people always do when their power is threatened. They demand the disruptor be removed. But here's the beautiful irony. Every time they criticize Erasmus, they prove his point. Every article calling him arrogant. Every interview demanding he be stopped. Every press conference where Northern Hemisphere coaches complain about his methods. All of it confirms that he's found something they don't have an answer for. Because if his tactics were easy to counter, they'd just counter them and move on. If his innovations were simple to replicate, they'd replicate them and stop complaining. If his approach was obviously flawed, they'd let him fail and watch it happen. But they can't do any of those things. So instead they appeal to authority and hope someone else will save them. Let's address the elephant in the room. Some people say Erasmus is disrespectful to the game, that he doesn't honor rugby's values, that he's all about winning at any cost. And you know what, they're half right. He is all about winning. But the idea that this somehow disrespects rugby is nonsense. Rugby has always evolved through innovation. The All Blacks didn't invent the haka to honor tradition. They weaponized their culture to intimidate opponents. England didn't develop their forward-dominated game plan out of respect for the past. They identified their strengths and maximized them ruthlessly. Australia didn't create their running rugby style because it was gentlemanly. They did it because their player pool demanded a different approach. Every successful rugby nation has bent the game to fit their advantage. Erasmus is just better at it than everyone else. And more importantly, he's better at it in a way that exposes how arbitrary the unwritten rules actually are. When Northern Hemisphere teams use their financial advantages to poach players from smaller nations, that's considered smart business. When they use their media dominance to influence referee appointments, that's considered normal politics. When they use their administrative power to schedule tournaments in their time zones, that's considered practical plan. But when a South African coach uses legal tactics to win matches, suddenly it's a crisis that demands intervention. The double standard is stunning, and Erasmus knows this.
And nobody gets results like Rassie Erasmus. Here's what makes this story even better. Erasmus himself predicted this. He said in interviews that the 7-1 split would never be normalized, that critics would always find reasons to complain about it, that the establishment would always resist change. He knew exactly what would happen and he did it anyway. That's not arrogance, that's clarity. He understood that innovation always faces resistance, that breaking new ground always generates controversy, that changing the game always threatens people invested in the old way. And he decided the results were worth the backlash. Think about what that takes. The courage to be misunderstood, the confidence to ignore criticism, the vision to see past the immediate reaction to the long-term impact. Most coaches want to be liked. Erasmus wants to win. Most coaches want to fit in. Erasmus wants to be effective. Most coaches want to preserve their legacy. Erasmus wants to build one that matters. And that's why they can't ban him. Because banning innovation would mean admitting that rugby is afraid of its own future. Because stopping legal tactics would mean acknowledging that the rules are designed to protect the powerful rather than promote fair competition. Because removing a successful coach for being too successful would expose the entire system as rigged against outsiders who find ways to win. World Rugby knows this. The administrators understand that banning Erasmus or his methods would create a precedent they can't afford. It would confirm every suspicion that rugby is a closed club for traditional powers. It would validate every criticism that the sport resists change. It would prove every accusation that the establishment will change the rules whenever someone from outside their circle starts winning. So they're stuck. They can't ban him, they can't stop him, they can't even slow him down. All they can do is watch as he continues to revolutionize rugby one controversial tactic at a time. And you know what the funniest part is? Other teams are already copying him. France used a similar bench split. New Zealand adjusted their substitution patterns. Even England started experimenting with forward-heavy benches. The very tactics critics said would destroy rugby are now being adopted by the critics themselves. Because when something works, eventually even the skeptics have to admit it. Eventually even the traditionalists have to evolve. Eventually even the establishment has to accept it. The game has changed. Rassie Erasmus didn't just win 2 World Cup, he won the argument about how modern rugby should be played. And his critics hate that more than anything else. So the next time you hear someone demanding that World Rugby ban Rassie Erasmus, remember what they're really saying. They're admitting they don't have answers. They're confessing they can't compete. They're revealing they'd rather change the rules than change their approach. And World Rugby can't help them. Because you can't ban genius. You can't legislate against innovation. You can't write rules that prevent someone from being smarter than everyone else. That's why Rassie Erasmus will keep doing exactly what he's been doing. That's why the Springboks will keep winning. And that's why his critics will keep complaining while the rest of us watch one of rugby's greatest minds continue to rewrite the rules.